World War II was a global conflict from 1939 to 1945, involving Germany, Italy, and Japan, known as the Axis powers, against Britain, the Soviet Union, the United States, and China. Adolf Hitler, who came to power in Germany in 1933, exploited the worldwide economic depression following the Wall Street crash and the German resentment toward the humiliating Treaty of Versailles, which had been signed after Germany's surrender in World War I. Hitler declared that Germans were a superior race. He began rebuilding the German military and violated the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. In an effort to avoid war, France and Britain allowed Hitler to expand German territory unchecked, first by uniting with Austria and then by annexing the German-speaking regions of Czechoslovakia, including Sudetenland, before invading the entire country. The war in Europe erupted in September 1939 when Germany invaded Poland from the west, followed by a Soviet invasion from the east. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany, but took little offensive action. In 1940, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway to secure iron supplies, quickly followed by successful campaigns in Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. By mid-1940, these nations had fallen to the Germans due to blitzkrieg tactics, which employed rapid and overwhelming force for quick victories. The British Expeditionary Force was trapped at Dunkirk, but managed to evacuate back to Britain by sea. Later in the summer of 1940, Germany launched an aerial assault on Britain, as the island nation was well defended by the Royal Navy. Despite the heavy bombing of London and other cities during the Blitz, the German Luftwaffe was unable to defeat Britain's Royal Air Force and the British resolve. Italy, under fascist dictator Benito Mussolini and allied with Germany, further expanded the war by invading North Africa and launching an unsuccessful campaign in Greece. In 1941, Germany led the Axis powers in Operation Barbarossa, the largest surprise land invasion in history against the Soviet Union. Behind the front lines, millions of Jews and communists were exterminated in horrific killing factories. Initially, the German forces made rapid advances deep into Soviet territory. However, the invasion turned into a major setback as the Wehrmacht became mired in a war of attrition due to the vastness of the Soviet Union, poor infrastructure, brutal winters, and the Soviets' scorched earth policy. By 1943, following the battles of Stalingrad and Kursk, Germany was forced into a full-scale retreat. In the Pacific, Japan sought to strengthen its dominance in the region. It seized Manchuria from China in 1931. In December 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. Navy base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Until then, the United States had been supporting Britain and imposing economic sanctions on Japan. After the attack, America officially entered the war against the Axis powers. Japan continued its expansionist policies throughout Southeast Asia and the Pacific, committing numerous war crimes. But its advances were halted in 1942 after suffering a critical defeat at the Battle of Midway. In North Africa, Germany and Italy faced a decisive defeat at the Battle of Alamein in 1942, marking a turning point in the campaign. In 1943, following Mussolini's regime collapse and the Allied landing in Sicily, German forces swiftly took control of Italy, fearing its loss to the Allies. On the Eastern Front, the Soviets became unlikely allies of the Americans, while the British gradually pushed the Germans back across Eastern Europe. In June 1944, American, British, and Canadian forces launched the D-Day invasion, the largest seaborne invasion in history, on the coast of Normandy to begin liberating German-occupied France. The Allies also continued their strategic bombing campaigns against German cities. By May 1945, Allied forces were closing in on Germany from both the east and west. Germany surrendered after the Soviet invasion of Berlin and Hitler's suicide. By spring 1945, most of Japan's conquests had been liberated, and Allied forces were advancing on the Japanese home islands. Following extensive bombing campaigns against Japanese cities and Japan's refusal to surrender, the USA dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Confronted with the Soviet invasion of Manchuria, Japan surrendered in September 1945. World War II was the largest and deadliest conflict in history, resulting in approximately 60 million deaths, including many from the Soviet Union and China, as well as Jews exterminated during the Holocaust. creation of the United Nations and initiated a sense of political and economic integration, particularly in Europe, fostering a common identity. The influence of European powers waned, triggering the decolonization of Africa and Asia, and setting the stage for the emergence of the USA and the Soviet Union as rival superpowers in the Cold War.